Hey, welcome back. It's a terrific Tuesday. It's Table Talk Tuesday, and we're at the Question Tequila Studios in downtown Manhattan today, coming to you live as we do every day, noon to 2 Eastern on Liquid Lunch on NEWSMAX TV. I'm John Tabacco. Joining us now is Colonel Dan Davis. He's a senior fellow for Defense Priorities, or joining us shortly will be Colonel Daniel Davis. But the market is down 170, still in recovery mode, down almost 300 this morning, and Bitcoin is still meandering down about 30 points. Frankie, the Ciccone brothers are cool cats. I like those guys.
I do too.
This is what you love about America. Like, you got an idea, you go put it into practice. We're going to start making T-shirts.
100%. And, in talking about what's happening in Syria now, I am amazed at this whole situation because Donald Trump's the only person ever who runs for office on an issue, then reiterates his position on the issue, and then when he begins to implement what he ran on and reiterated, people are just shocked. People are shocked. I can't believe it. Tariffs? Where did tariffs come from? Immigration? Where did immigration? And now with Syria.
He's there. The colonel is with us. The good colonel. Joins us now Daniel Davis, Senior Fellow of Defense Priorities, Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Army. Colonel, thanks for joining us again on Liquid Lunch. We really appreciate it. Colonel Davis, you have us. Hey, Colonel.
I can barely hear you, but I guess that's good enough.
Okay, great. Well, the main thing is we want to hear from you. I know we had talked about, lightening the forces in Afghanistan. You weren't totally for it the last time on. What are your thoughts, and what are the liabilities and risks here for pulling out of Syria?
Well, there's no liabilities at all. We absolutely need to withdraw from Syria. I mean, just imagine this whole explosion that we've had right now with all this kerfluffle going on. Could have been entirely avoided if Trump had followed through with what he said twice in 2018, that he was going to withdraw from Syria, which is what I've been saying the whole time. The longer we stay there, the greater our risk is of having an intentional consequence of a conflict between Russia, between United States and Syria, perhaps, or our ally Turkey. And now then we're on the cusp of a lot of friction between there. None of it is necessary because our interests absolutely are not at stake in Syria, and it is definitely time for us to withdraw.
So, Colonel, just so I understand, what exactly are we doing? What is the president's plan? Are we pulling all the troops out of Syria? Is it just northern Syria? What exactly is slated to occur and when?
Well, and that's one of the big points of miscommunication and misunderstanding. You see all over the internet, the media, that Trump is withdrawing from Syria, and some are saying he's abandoning them and all this. The only thing that has physically happened so far is Trump has moved several dozen troops just further down south. No one has withdrawn. So far as I've seen, Trump has not even given any orders for anyone to withdraw. He's just moved them out of the area so that there's no risk of American soldiers getting caught in the crossfire between Turkey and the Kurds of the Syrian Democratic Forces, which of course highlights why we need to have them completely withdrawn, because they serve no function, no value for the United States at all. They just get potentially put in the crosshairs.
Now, this is pretty interesting in terms of Trump decisions, in that it's not just Democrats that are beating him up, it's the Republicans as well. Lindsey Graham has sort of been leading the charge in the criticism since Sunday on this. He said if we pull out, the Kurds will be forced for survival to ally themselves with Assad. We all know what a bad guy Assad is. Explain to our viewers why that's not something that we should be concerned about right now, or it's not something that's accurate.
Well, look, people first of all need to recognize there's no vacuum to create. As so many say, if we withdraw, then all of these bad things happen. Look, here's the fact. Before all of this stuff happened, Syria existed. They had allies of Russia. They had allies of Iran, and the Syrian Kurds were living in their country. So at the very worst, you're going to see a return to the original status quo. So us leaving just returns it to the state that it existed for centuries before we started, operating in there. So that's the first point. The second point is that our involvement there was originally, despite Obama sitting there without congressional authorization, their purpose was to help the Kurds get rid of ISIS in Raqqa. That was accomplished in late 2017, and by all rights, our troops should then have redeployed because that tactical mission was accomplished. But look, this other big things that people say that we're abandoning the Kurds. People need to understand that the U.S. gave the Kurds far more than they gave us. Their benefit was in their country where they were facing threats from ISIS, direct threats to their homeland, to their families, to their children. We went in there and basically loaned them our Air Force to completely drive ISIS out of their city. So they benefited greatly from that, and we were never at risk from ISIS at all. Our ISR and strike, as we've talked about before, that keeps us safe from anything over there. But it was the Kurds who gained greatly. So if we leave, they still have gained tremendously by our actions in the past.
Now, another criticism, aside from that where the Kurds are going to be massacred, aside from the Kurds are going to be forced to ally with Bashar al-Assad, the other criticism that we've heard from people like Liz Cheney, I'm not really sure why people with the last name of Cheney think they have any credibility commenting on foreign affairs with respect to the Middle East, but that doesn't seem to stop her. She said that terrorists, that ISIS would come back, basically. Terrorists thousands of miles away can and will use their safe havens to launch attacks against America. That's what she said would happen if we went forward with this Trump plan. Why is that a fallacious argument?
Well, I'll tell you, Representative Cheney is kind of representative of the Washington establishment thinking that affects across the board, whether you're talking Republican or Democrat, quite frankly, and that is to withdraw anywhere we have troops ever is always accused of, oh, there's all these, new 9/11 that would happen, which is Senator Graham's favorite one to talk about here. But the fact is, there was never any doubt that our defeating ISIS on the tactical battlefield and driving them out of Raqqa in Syria and Mosul in Iraq, they were simply going to go underground. That was known from the beginning, because you can't destroy a terrorist movement with conventional military forces. You can blow up buildings and you can kill individuals, but you can't destroy something that's in a twisted mind. That's something you have to, get after the causes, the root causes of terrorism, which is well beyond our ability to do from thousands of miles away, as you pointed out. What is within our ability to do, and our requirement as the government, is to protect our country from terrorism wherever it comes, whatever its forms, by our ISR strike and our coordination between federal, state, and local law enforcement officials. That's what we need to continue doing, and we just got to get past this false belief that troops on the ground anywhere overseas keeps us safe from terrorism. Here, it doesn't.
Wow. Well, thank you, as always, for your sage advice and commentary.
And take a look at this Marco Rubio tweet. If reports about U.S. retreat in Syria are accurate, the Trump administration has made a grave mistake that will have implications far beyond Syria. You know what? Why does no one ever talk about the implications of keeping American troops in these foreign countries that they weren't invited to be in?
What about the implications of our president doing what he said he was going to do, which is protect our borders and bring the great men and women of our fighting forces back here to America? Colonel Davis, thank you so much for always giving us your time. Thank you for your time and service to protecting the liberties and freedoms that we all enjoy here. Also,
always my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're the best. That's Colonel Dan Davis. And Frankie, Colonel Davis is not the only one, but he was on the ground. This guy's a commander. He's a warrior.
He's got every possible military decoration there is.
Name it.
Yeah.
Everything?
Exactly. Just about.
Everyone.
I can list them.
But Marco Rubio.
Right, he knows better.
Little Marco knows better than Colonel Dan Davis.
Or as we call him on this show, the water bottle warrior. This is Marco Rubio's equivalent of combat. Oh, water during the State of the Union response. This is Marco Rubio's contribution to public affairs. Give me a break, Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham, I think they finished 20th and 21st when they were running against Donald Trump. You think you know better in terms of how to administer foreign policy? Give me a break. Why don't you wake up and act like you had a clue?
Yeah, I love the way you roll your R's in the Rubio.
That's how they pronounce it.
Like you say, instant Graham. and
that's
White House.
I got that from Dan.
He's
Dan
such
Ralder.
a phonetic speaker,
Yeah.
this Frankie boy. But we're not going to stop. We don't care because we don't have a boss.
In fact, we're just
we
starting
have
up.
the CEO of the network who,
That's right.
basically gives us the four corners of what we're not allowed to do. But anything inside of that, we can do it. And we're going after Max Rose. We're going after Marco Rubio. We're going after Lindsey Graham. Anybody who doesn't agree
Liz
with the
Cheney.
president, Liz Cheney.
How'd you like to be waterboarded, Liz Cheney?
Yeah.
Yeah. Marco Rubio has a different
What's in your
idea
waterboard?
about what waterboarding is.
What's in your waterboard?
Trust me.
We should see if we can get Samuel L. Jackson to do that for us.
Yeah, that's
what's in
pretty
your waterboard? Is that Capital One commercial?
That's pretty good. Well, speaking of startups, John, we're going to talk with the startup king, Jim Beach, coming up next.
We're going to have a king on the show right after this, and we may even have a queen a little later on. You're watching Liquid Lunch, you're not going to believe it, but hour 2 is just flying by. We're coming back at you right after this.